Introduction of Storytime Tales. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Anne O'Donoghue. Storytime Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. Introduction. If you go with me to Storytime Land, I hope, dear children, you'll understand many beautiful surprises wait for you. In the land where lovely dreams come true, you will all be happy children indeed, when Storytime Tales you learn to read. End of introduction. Section 1 of Storytime Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Read by Anne O'Donoghue. The Little Moon Men. Once upon a time there was a little boy who did not always do what's right. He even tried to stay awake all night. One evening when Mother and Father tried to coax him to sleep, old Aunt Rachel, the coloured mammy, came clumpety-clump upstairs. She took the little boy in her arms and rocked to and fro in the old rocking chair. As they went rocking to and fro, the little boy stared at the great moon and said, "I don't like a sleepy song. I want to stay up all night long." At this the old mammy pretended she did not hear, and said in a sing-song kind of way, little men, skipping o'er the hill and glen. Little men, carry sacks of dreams, what then? Little men, here they all come out again. Who are the little men? Asked the little boy. Mammy rocked to and fro and said, see them creeping over the moon. One will be in your bedroom soon. Then the most surprising thing happened. The little boy looked, and up over the moon crept a wee little man with a sack on his back. There came another, and another, and another. Would they never stop coming? As they came nearer, and nearer, and nearer, you can even hear the song the little man was singing. Rock away, to and fro. I'll bring a rocking chair dream, you know. One little man came so near, you could hear the patter, patter, patter of his little feet. Then he danced right on the windowsill and sang, hello, bright eyes, I'll tickle your toes. I am in earnest goodness known. Before Mammy or the little boy could say a word, in came the little man and tickled the little boy's toes. The little man sang as he tickled the little boy's toes, nid, nid, nodding goes your head. Ha ha, ho ho, it's time for bed. At this very minute, the little boy's head went nid, nid, nodding. Then the little man kissed him on both cheeks and said, rock away, sleeping till the break of day. As the little boy fell fast asleep, the little man took a beautiful dream out of his bag, and he and the little boy joined hands and skipped away, away, away. They left Mammy asleep, rocking gently to and fro in the old rocking chair, as they sailed up, up, up among the clouds, and the little boy said, it is fun to sail at night, when the moon and stars are bright. The little man said, I'm glad you did as you were told. I'll go and dig for fairy gold. There they were with the little moon men, and they were all digging for gold. Click, click, click went the spades, and up came the gold pieces. Big gold pieces, little gold pieces, middle-sized gold pieces. Just as the little boy cried, let me dig, and took hold one of the little wee spades, he woke up and saw the mammy was gone, but the rocking chair still rocked to and fro in the moonlight. He was safe and sound in his wee little bed. He put his hand under his pillow and pulled out a shining gold piece. On it was written, go to sleep when you are told, then you will gather fairy gold. Will you believe it? His head went nid, nid, nodding right away again, and he was asleep in 2 minutes. The rocking chair in the corner was very wise and old. It sang, I can tell other tales, my dear, for I have rocked 100 years. I wonder if your rocking chair rocks to and fro in the corner. End of section 1. Section 2 of Storytime Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Read by Anne O'Donoghue. The Once-a-Week Girl. Little smiling face, I have not seen you for a whole week, said the bathtub fairy. Soiled hands and sticky face, you can't find them any place. replied the little girl, laughing happily as she unbuttoned this button and untied that string. I see some little girls every day, continued the bathtub fairy. If I only meet you once a week, we'll have to be introduced all over again. The soap bubble fairy cried, You spoke in verses other times. Where did you leave your box of rhymes? The bathtub fairy began to dash and splash in the most comical manner, and the little girl cried, Please don't be reckless, I suppose. You'd like to splash on my clean clothes. The Turkish towel fairy waved her towel and cried, Bathtub fairy, without doubt, you've lost your rhymes, the secret's out. The bathtub fairy replied, Now jump in while the water's hot. We'll have some fun as like as not. Then the little girl and the soap bubble fairy and the water fairy and the Turkish towel fairy saw that the bathtub fairy had not lost his box of rhymes after all, and little smiling face jumped into the tub singing, Rub and scrub, rub and scrub. It's fun to bathe right in the tub. How about going in swimming in the pond? Asked the water fairy. The little girl said, May I go and swim some day in the pond across the way? The bathtub fairy said, You don't like water, that is plain. I seldom see you, please explain. The little girl said, I have so many things to do, it's hard to get a bath in too. The bathtub fairy got rather cross at that and dashed about at a great rate. The soap bubble fairy said, She means to be a good girl fairy, but seldom ever sees a fairy. The Turkish towel fairy said, We'll safely hide ourselves away until she likes a bath each day. The little girl said, If I take a bath each day, will I see you? Where do you hide? Why is it so hard to see a fairy? The bathtub fairy answered, Your question box is very fine. I'll answer one question at a time. If you were not little, but old and wise, you'd see us with your other eyes. The soap bubble fairy said, Fairies live o'er all creation. Why not use your imagination? The towel fairy said, With your mind's eye you can see fairies full of fun and glee. Just as the water fairy was trying to get a word, Mother called, Hurry, hurry, come to bed, little smiling sleepyhead. The little girl sprang out of the tub and took out the stopper, put the soap on the rack, and hugged the old bath towel till she was quite dry, singing merrily, Hurrah for the fairies in the tub, how I like to rub and scrub. If I bathed every night or day, with all the fairies I could play. The bathtub fairy called as the water fairy ran out of the tub, You're so good-natured, smiling face. It's time for bed, let's run a race. The little girl ran pitter-patter, off to bed. The water fairy ran clitter-clatter, out of the tub. The bathtub stopper said in a rubbery voice, I had to stay right in my place. I cannot tell who won the race. The soap bubble fairy bubbled over with laughter, and the Turkish towel fairy said, If you want to beat fairies in the tub, you'll have to hurry and rub and scrub. I'll give you too this bit of warning. You'll have to get up in the early morning. The little girl dreamed all night that she saw fairies dancing in the old bathtub. End of section 2. Section 3 of Storytime Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Read by Anne O'Donoghue. The Gingerbread Boy and Girl. Old Mammy Cook-it-all sat in a rocking chair by the fire singing, I'll take a nap now just for fun. My cakes and cookies are all done. How about me? Whispered the gingerbread boy. How about me? Whispered the gingerbread girl. Old Mammy Cook-it-all was nodding fast asleep. The gingerbread boy began to fan himself with a piece of blotting paper, and the gingerbread girl began to fan herself with the postage stamp. They had just come out of the hot oven. Said the gingerbread girl, Old Daddy Eat-it-all is not your friend or mine at all. Said the gingerbread boy, Here comes old Daddy Eat-it-all. I hear his cane thump down the hall. Tap, 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 sounded the cane, and old Daddy Eat-it-all peeped in the kitchen and saw Mammy Cook-it-all fast asleep. He took another chair by the fire, and soon he was nodding fast asleep. The gingerbread boy and girl said, The kitchen is the place for fun, and with the broom our work's begun. The gingerbread girl took a broom and swept the floor, and the gingerbread boy took a cloth and dusted the tables and chairs. They had just finished when old dog Towser came in and opened his mouth. My, what a big mouth he had! He was just going to snap off the gingerbread girl's head and the gingerbread boy's feet when old Mammy Cook-it-all woke up and old Daddy Eat-it-all woke up crying, "Oh, dog Towser, don't snap in fun. Gingerbread girl and boy, you run!" The dog laid his ears back and closed his mouth, and the gingerbread boy and girl jumped up in the pan on the table. Old Daddy Eat-it-all said, "You may have often heard and said, how well I do like gingerbread." Old Mammy Cook-it-all gave him a cake of gingerbread and said, as she looked at her clean kitchen, "I hope that nothing will ever destroy my gingerbread girl and gingerbread boy." Old dog Towser said nothing, but his eyes grew big as saucers. End of section 3. Section 4 of Storytime Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Read by Anne O'Donoghue. Tinkle Bell and the Tiny Tots. One night Mother said, "Hurry up, Robbie, hurry up, wee sister. Why are you so slow undressing?" Before Robbie and Wee could answer, a shrill voice piped up. "I know," says Tinker Bell the elf. "I can answer that question now myself." They all looked to see where the fairy voice came from, but they could only hear a little bell ring. Tinkle, tinkle, tinkle. Mother said, "Hurry up and undress, and perhaps you will hear the fairy song again. Perhaps you will see the little bell that tinkles." The children unbuttoned this and unhooked that, and a merry voice called, "Little behindhand likes to play with children always night and day." Then the children laughed and said, "We won't let little behindhand in. Sing again, Merry Tinkle Bell." "Why are you so slow?" asked Mother again, quite forgetting the fairy. At that very minute a fairy voice answered, "Little behindhand without doubt, just likes to linger round about." "Oh my," said Robbie, "how I do hate to unbutton shoes. I think they have 49 buttons upon them." Tinkle Bell sang, "Just call on me whenever you choose. I like to help unbutton shoes." Then the most surprising thing happened. Robbie's shoes were unbuttoned by invisible fingers, and as he started to leave them in a little heap upon the floor, a voice cried, "Oh, Robbie, Robbie, have a care. Put your shoes beneath the chair." At this very minute, Wee wrinkled her face up into many little wrinkles and said, "My fingers are all thumbs. Oh, Mother, I cannot untie my hair ribbon." Tinkle Bell sang, "Come, smile a little, never sigh, if a hair ribbon you'd untie." Then the ribbon came off of itself and fell upon the floor, and Tinkle Bell sang, "Don't leave your things upon the floor. The fairies find it quite a bore." As Wee picked up her ribbon, Tinkle Bell sang, "Hurry, hurry, fold it neatly. Come now, do the task completely." Mother was called downstairs, and then for the first time the children saw Tinkle Bell. He was the cutest little fairy in the world, and he jumped from one chair to another shouting directions, "Off with your trousers, have a care to fold them neatly on the chair," and "On with your nightie, it is fun to run a race when well begun." Before the children knew it, they were ready for bed, and as they jumped in, Tinkle Bell sang, "I always help the tiny tots. You once were fairies like as not." Little Behindhand peeped in the window singing, "Little Behindhand without doubt is sorry that you left her out." Then she disappeared, and Tinkle Bell danced so hard that the little bell around his neck rang, "Tinkle, tinkle, tinkle." The children's beds each became a fairy boat, and they rocked away into dreamland. The captain sang, "'Tis the dreamland boat that sails the sea. Hey ho for the fairy boat! Neath its sails so gay we'll sail away, and o'er blue waters float." Tinkle Bell waved his cap gaily, singing, "Come, tiny tots, you understand? This is the way to fairyland." Bump, bump, the boat came to a sudden stop. There must be rocks in the sea. Robbie and Wee woke up, and Tinkle Bell called, "Oh, tiny tots, look on the floor. You left some clothes there as before." "Ha ha!" cried the children. so we rocked over our own clothes after all." As Tinkle Bell nodded, 24 little fairies came in dancing and singing, "We like to dance when the floor is clear. We have very often peeped in here." But when they saw some of the children's clothes upon the floor, they floated away out the window. We called, "We are very careless, we declare. We meant to put them on the chair." Tinkle Bell replied, "You're thoughtful children, I am told. Just listen to the fairy gold." Off came his cap, and down on the floor fell a shower of gold. "Oh and ah!" cried the children, and Mother called, "Don't talk any more, children, it is time to sleep." Tinkle Bell vanished and carried away the fairy gold. The children fell asleep. Next morning Robbie found a little gold medal under his pillow. On it was written, "Do keep little behindhand out, 'twill please the fairies without doubt." We found a medal too with the same words upon it. The children cried, "See our fairy gold!" Just then they heard a tinkling bell, and a voice cried, "I'll help you undress very well. Just call on little Tinkle Bell, and undress quickly without fail, if in the fairy boat you'd sail." "Don't go away," cried Robbie. "I canna find Tinkle Bell," cried we. Just then the old grey cat peeped in the door. She had a blue ribbon round her neck. She wore a silver bell that tinkled. You know as well as I do that the old grey cat cannot sing real songs, though, and she told me the other day that she never rode to Dreamland. End of section 4. Section 5 of Storytime Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Read by Anne O'Donoghue. The Jolly Old Pumpkin. A jolly old pumpkin, yellow and wise, said, "Thanksgiving is coming, don't steal my eyes." A dull little knife came by and cut out the pumpkin's eyes. He said, "I am glad you are not a potato with many eyes." The pumpkin said, "Please give me my eyes back." The dull little knife said, "I will not give you back your eyes until you give me a grindstone to make me sharp." So the jolly old pumpkin saw it was no use to mince matters, and it rolled and rolled and rolled until it came to a farmyard, and said, "Lend me your grindstone half an hour. I'll pay you anything within my power." The farmer said, "Oh, yellow pumpkin, roll away. Tomorrow will be Thanksgiving Day." The farmer's wife said, "Why did you let the pumpkin go? It would have made a pie." She called after the pumpkin, "Bring me sugar from the store. I've often wanted it before." So the jolly old pumpkin rolled and rolled to the store and said, "Lend me some sugar half an hour. I'll pay anything within my power." The storekeeper laughed until his fat old sides shook. He said, "Oh, yellow pumpkin, roll away, for tomorrow will be Thanksgiving Day." At this very minute the clerk in the store sang out, "Bring me some change, I haven't any. I need dimes, nickels, and a penny." Then the old jolly pumpkin rolled away to the bank and said, "Lend me some change for half an hour. I'll pay anything within my power." The bank clerk said, "Oh, yellow pumpkin, roll away, for tomorrow will be Thanksgiving Day." Just at that very minute, not a second before or a second after, a little wee man appeared and said, "I'm a little wee man with bags of gold. You need some change, so I am told." Then the jolly old pumpkin rolled gladly after him, and got some change, and took it to the storekeeper, and bought the sugar, and took it to the farmer's wife to sweeten her pies, and borrowed the grindstone, and took it to the knife, and the knife grew sharper, sharper, and sharper, and gave the pumpkin back its eyes, and gave it a mouth and nose too, in the bargain, and said, "Pumpkin, you gave me a great surprise. Here are your jolly round shining eyes, and a mouth and a nose, as I suppose. You'll be a jack-o'-lantern, as everyone knows." The little wee man brought a candle and lighted it up, and put it inside the jolly old pumpkin, and said, "Jolly jack-o'-lantern can run away. You'll not be a pie on Thanksgiving Day." The jolly old pumpkin said, "I am only a pumpkin head, but I'm thankful for everything you said." Then he danced upon a post so high, if you look you'll see him by and by. The little wee man said, "If you're as jolly as I've heard say, I wish you a happy Thanksgiving Day." The sharp little knife said, "'Tis well to be jolly and work and play. I wish you a happy Thanksgiving Day." The jolly old pumpkin replied, In a cut-out voice I must reply, I'm thankful I'm not a pumpkin pie. End of section 5. Section 6 of Storytime Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Read by Anne O'Donoghue. The Shadow Child. Mother said to Girl Goldilocks, 8 o'clock is time for bed. Don't you hear what Mother said? Girl Goldilocks replied, Do I have to go now? Can't I sit up a little longer? Will you believe it? This little girl pouted and teased every night when bedtime came, and she always begged to stay up a little longer. Mother hummed softly, If the fairies were about, they'd help me train you without doubt. The clock struck 8:15, 8:30, 9:15. Still Girl Goldie sat playing with her blocks on the floor. Suddenly the lights went out. Fairy whistling wind blew the window curtains, saying, To make you good, I often try. Don't you hear me whistling by? Girl Goldie stamped her foot and said, I will never go to bed to please you, old whistling wind. Then the raindrop fairies came, patter, 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 against the window panes, singing, Don't you hear our sleepy song? To night-time pleasant dreams belong. Girl Goldie tossed her lovely curls and said, I won't go to bed to please you, raindrop fairies. You may patter away as hard as you like. My, how the fairies did clatter, pitter-patter, pitter-patter. By and by the star fairies began to peep timidly out, singing, Stars are peeping in the sky, by-a-lo-by, by-a-lo-by. At this Girl Goldie was furious. She said, I am no baby to hear lullabies. Then the moonlight fairies came and kissed her, singing, My, this girl is very wild. We'll have to call the Shadow Child. Before Girl Goldie could answer a word, a little Shadow Child came stealing and creeping. She came slyly peeping. She sang, The Shadow Child comes stealing, creeping, and in your window she comes peeping. She put her arms round Girl Goldie and went with her away, away, away to Shadowland. There they heard a great weeping and sighing, for 1,025 mothers were weeping. We cannot find a child, 'tis said, who really likes to go to bed. The Shadow Child said, Look at me, how thin I have grown. I am tired and sleepy too. Will you give me no rest at all? Girl Goldie said, Take me home, tuck me in bed, pull the covers high over my head. The Shadow Child said, I'm your jolly companion all the day. I ran with you in work and play. Girl Goldie said, I don't like this weeping in Shadowland. Take me home, don't you understand? The Shadow Child said, One little mother'd be happy, I know, if cheerfully on up to bed you'd go. Girl Goldie said, I like you very well in the daytime, Shadow Child, but can't you understand I am really sleepy now? Her head went nid nodding as the Shadow Child said, In Shadowland you have to stay. We keep awake both night and day. Girl Goldie began to cry, and the moonlight fairies trooped around her, singing, home again, let us fly. Perhaps she'll be good again by and by. So home again they went, and the Shadow Child kissed her, singing, sleepy time, comes again in every clime. Then Girl Goldie awoke with her head resting on an old red hassock. The clock fairy called. I listened and I heard it said that all the family went to bed. Girl Goldie felt like crying, for she was all alone downstairs, but she only said, I must not start all those mothers sighing again in Shadowland. And she went upstairs, pitter-patter, and crept into her own little bed. The moonlight fairies danced about her and sang, so very pleasant now she seems, that we will bring her happy dreams. The clock fairy said, Tomorrow night at 8:15, I'll sing to her, now don't be late. The clock fairy did really sing out at 8:15 the next night, and Girl Goldie put her playthings away, kissed Mother, and went quietly to bed. Her little feet went pitter-patter on the stairs. She never went back to Shadowland, but danced with the fairies hand in hand. Mother said, How did she happen to go to bed? The clock fairy sees so many things as he swings to and fro, on the pendulum night and day, that he might have spoken volumes, but when Mother asked again, how did she happen to go to bed? He only replied, tick-tock instead. End of section 6. Section 7 of Storytime Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Read by Anne O'Donoghue. The Pot of Gold. April showers, seeing the drops of rain. April showers, on the window pane. So sang the rain one morning as it went rap-a-tap on the window pane. There were showers inside that day as well as out, for Peter and Polly said they could have no fun on a rainy Saturday. Peter said, "Why do we have rain on Saturday?" and he cried a little. To his surprise, the umbrella in the corner answered, "April showers bring flowers again. How I like the April rain! At the rainbow's end, I'm told, there may lie a pot of gold." Polly said, "We did not know anyone liked rain," and she cried a little. To her surprise, the rubbers in the corner spoke up. "How we like the April rain! Rainbow colours in her train. If we could reach the rainbow's end, we'd have a pot of gold to lend." Peter and Polly looked out the window and saw the drops of rain splash up and down in puddles in the street. They said, "Let's pretend we like the rain and be happy once again. We may behold a pot of gold is at the rainbow's end, we're told." At that very minute Polly said, "Oh, look!" and Peter said, "Oh, look!" What do you suppose they saw? Down in the puddle of water, 24 little raindrops turned into 24 little fairies, and each one carried a little umbrella. They cried to the children, "The raindrop fairies laugh and shout, oh, get your rubbers and come out. If you should have umbrellas too, be sure to bring them out with you." Peter and Polly lost no time, you may be sure. They got rubbers and umbrellas and ran out to find the raindrop fairies. There they stood with their 24 little umbrellas bobbing up and down. They said, "Hurry, for we give you warning. We're busy on an April morning." Peter and Polly followed them, and they gave cool, refreshing showers everywhere they went. Suddenly they came to the heart of a great woods, and they called in their 24 little voices, Lady April, wake up from your nap. Lady April, hear the fairies tap." The fairies rapped and tapped with their little umbrellas at every tree they came to, hoping Lady April might come out. Then the raindrop fairies sat down in a circle and began to cry. "Spring has come, we're not mistaken, but Lady April does not waken." The fairies cried into their 24 little handkerchiefs, because they could not waken Lady April. They acted very much like real children after all. Just how fairy sunshine came filtering in through the little green leaves of the trees no one could tell, but there she stood before them, and the fairies dried their eyes, for she took a little gold key and unlocked the nearest maple tree. Out stepped Lady April in her rainbow gown. She wore a crown of spring flowers. She was full of tears and smiles. As Lady April stepped out of the tree, the wind blew warmer and warmer, and fairy sunshine knelt on one knee and presented her with the pot of gold, for she had been at the rainbow's end and found it. Lady April opened the pot and found it full of smiles and sunshine and loving thoughts and laughter. She said, "I will open the pot of gold when I feel like weeping." All the flowers sprang up to greet her. Yellow butterflies floated about her. Birds' songs were in the air. Everything was singing. The 24 raindrop fairies closed their 24 little umbrellas and slipped away. Fairy sunshine kissed the children on both cheeks and said, "A merry heart does not mind whether it is fair or stormy weather. As showers and sunshine run a race, please wear a happy, smiling face." Suddenly Peter and Polly were all alone in the woods. Peter said, "How golden your curls are, Polly." Polly said, "How sunny your smile is." As they started homeward, they saw sunshine everywhere. Fairy Sunshine had touched the dandelions on the bank. The oriole's breast reflected sunshine. There was gold on the butterfly's wings. When Peter and Polly arrived home, they found the bird in his cage was singing of sunshine, and the prism on the table reflected all the rainbow colours. The children said, "Wherever we go, we will always carry sunshine with us." After that, Peter was called Little Sir Sunshine, for he had such a sunny smile, and Polly was called Little Miss Sunshine, for her golden curls went dancing wherever she went. They were glad they had learned the song that Fairy Sunshine taught them. End of section 7. Section 8 of Storytime Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Read by Anne O'Donoghue. Fairy Sunshine. Once upon a time, when Mother was away for a long visit and Lucy Lindy kept house for Father, she played so hard 'twould make you weep. She quite forgot to dust or sweep. One morning Fairy Sunshine called, let me in, then the fun will soon begin." Lucy Lindy was so surprised to hear a real fairy singing, she said, "Fairy Sunshine, come right in now. I'd like to help you, I don't know how." Fairy Sunshine danced to and fro on the window-sill singing pretty little songs, but she would not come in. Then Lucy Lindy said, "If you stay out, I'll surely cry. Won't you come in by and by?" Fairy Sunshine waved her wand and sang, "You'd better ask the window pane. I tried once, I might try again." Lucy Lindy laughed merrily. Hey-oh! But the window pane was cloudy as cloudy could be. She ran and got a bucket of water and a nice clean cloth, and rubbed and scrubbed the window until it shone. Then she danced a gay little dance and sang, "If you stay out, I'll surely cry. Won't you come in by and by?" Fairy Sunshine sang, "One thing now is very certain. You'd better ask the window curtain." Hey-ho! But the window curtain was dusty and grey. Lucy Lindy climbed a wee ladder and took down the wee curtain and washed it and hung it on a line to dry. It took some time to iron and hang it up again, and she was so sure Fairy Sunshine would come in this time. She fairly shouted, "If you stay out, I'll surely cry. Won't you come in by and by?" Fairy Sunshine answered merrily, "I'd come in, but I'm much afraid. You'll have to ask the window shade." Lucy Lindy rolled down the dusty old window shade and dusted it neatly, and she put a green geranium in the window. Lucy Lindy said, as before, "If you stay out, I'll surely cry. Won't you come in by and by?" Fairy Sunshine cried merrily, "You'll have to ask your flower pot. It needs a scrub as like as not." Lucy Lindy clapped her hands and scrubbed her flower pot as a beautiful red geranium burst into bloom. Then Fairy Sunshine came dancing in the clean window, and she blew the clean curtains aside and smiled on the clean shade and kissed the flower in the shining flower pot. Everything in the room shone as though it were touched with fairy gold. Fairy Sunshine danced merrily on the wall and said, "If you had 21 guesses, you'd name the colour of my dresses." She shone on a glass prism on the table and threw beautiful colours on the wall. Lucy Lindy called the baby, and they clapped their hands with delight. They did not see Father standing in the doorway, and back of him Mother, who had returned from her visit. Father rolled each one a shining orange and said, "A fairy housekeeper has been here, and Mother too is back, my dear." Such a hugging and kissing as there was all around, and Fairy Sunshine whispered, "Fairy gold, so I am told, is for the young and for the old." Lucy Lindy's curls became as gold as the sunshine, and she sang, "To be a good housekeeper I'll begin. I'm glad I let Fairy Sunshine in." For many days Fairy Sunshine played about that room. Do you think Lucy Lindy became a good housekeeper? I forgot to ask her. End of section 8. Section 9 of Storytime Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Read by Anne O'Donoghue. The Spool Family. One day there was a great talk going on in the kindergarten. The sphere, cube, and cylinder agreed that they could go to sleep after the day's work was over. At that very minute, to their surprise, rap-a-tap was heard on the door, and the whole Spool family entered. They came rumbling and tumbling in, and in their hurry almost rolled over one another. The sphere said, "Cylinder, you will have to make them welcome." The cube said, "Cylinder, I think they are your cousins." The cylinder said politely, "How do you do?" The Spool family said in their wooden voices, "The old work basket is our home, but we started out to roam." The Spool family had comical faces, but the spool that held the black thread was the only one who wore a necktie. He spoke up next, saying, "I hold shoe buttons on, 'tis said. I'm just a spool of linen thread." Then the little spool holding pink silk piped up, "Though not as useful quite, you see, I am just as dainty as can be." Then, to the surprise of all, the spools holding fine white and black thread bowed to each other and danced the minute. When the dance was over, the Spool family said, "We go by number, not by name, but we have feelings just the same." Then they all began to shout their numbers, 40, 50, 60. Would they never stop? Just as suddenly as they came, they rolled out the door, calling, "Even spools have work to do, so we call goodbye to you." "Oh, and ah!" cried the sphere, cube, and cylinder. "Will they ever call again?" Next morning a wonderful thing happened in the kindergarten. An empty spool stood on the table in front of each little red chair. Each spool had a face drawn upon it. Someone said, "Who likes to go to school?" "We do," answered each wooden spool. The children in that kindergarten had such a good time after they met the Spool family. They brought spools of different sizes and shapes to school. They kept them in a box and called them their Spool family. They drew faces on their spools and named and numbered them. They pasted a strip of pasteboard across 2 spools and made a table for the Spool family. They told new stories about the Spool family every day. End of section 9. Section 10 of Storytime Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Read by Anne O'Donoghue. Little Miss Muffet's Picnic Party. One sunshiny summer day, little Miss Muffet said, "I will give invitation hearty, this very day to my picnic party." The spider peeped in the door and said, "The invitations I will make, and deliver them without mistake." Miss Muffet was no longer afraid of the friendly spider, so she replied, "If the Mother Goose children are all good, they may come to my picnic in the wood." The spider went to work and made beautiful invitations to the picnic, and he wove pretty patterns on each invitation. Little Miss Muffet knew she must do some cooking for the picnic, so she put on her apron and cap and made a fire, and, when she got out her rolling pin, she was almost ready to begin. Rap-a-tap was heard on the door, and in walked Mother Goose singing, "Old Mother Hubbard, so empty's her cupboard. Who'll help fill the cupboard for Mother Hubbard?" Little Miss Muffet went to her pantry shelves at once and took down jars and cans of good things and filled a basket for Mother Goose to take to old Mother Hubbard. Then Miss Muffet went back to her cookie-making, singing, "Ha-ha for the bowl and kitchen spoon. I will stir up picnic cookies soon." Tap, tap, tap was heard on the window, and there stood Betty Blue crying because she had lost her holiday shoe. Little Miss Muffet went out and helped her look for the lost shoe, of course, and it was 11 o'clock when she got home. She said merrily as she began to stir the cookies again, "We will be happy all together. A picnic's fun in pleasant weather." Ting-a-ling rang the telephone, and Simple Simon said, "Can I come over today or tomorrow? A penny to earn or a penny to borrow?" Little Miss Muffet knew how fond Simple Simon was of pie, and she could not refuse him a penny for the pieman. The invitations had gone out. The picnic hour was set for 4 o'clock. Every hour it grew nearer and nearer 4 o'clock. The cookies were not ready, and 25 new picnic dinner pails stood empty in a row. Miss Muffet began to roll the cookies out at last, when she saw Jack and Jill tumbling downhill. She ran to them, of course, to wrap Jack's head up in vinegar and brown paper, and to help Jill up. She had no sooner gotten home when she heard Tom the Piper's son piping. Humpty Dumpty now was calling. He is much afraid of falling. So Miss Muffet went to rescue Humpty Dumpty from the wall. It grew nearer and nearer 4 o'clock, and I am afraid there would have been no picnic lunch ready at all, if the spider had not spun a long, long web reaching to the home of the old woman of Leeds, who was known for kind deeds. She came in a hurry to Miss Muffet's house, you may be sure, and cut out the cookies and put red and blue sugar upon them and slipped them in the oven to bake, and the kind-hearted spider sat right there beside her. He said fairy verses, and the most surprising things began to happen as it grew nearer and nearer 4 o'clock. He shouted, "Don't forget each sandwich plate, or the picnic will be late." Down sailed 25 paper plates into 25 empty picnic pails. Then he cried, "Ho for the knife and fork and spoon, the picnic party will come off soon." Down sailed 25 little knives and forks and spoons into the shining dinner pails. Tom, the piper's son, brought a peck of pickled peppers, and Tommy Tucker brought jelly he had earned when singing for his supper, and Simple Simon brought a ripe red raspberry pie. The Queen of Hearts brought tarts, and little Jack Horner brought a wonderful green apple pie, and Polly put the kettle on to make tea, so all the children helped get ready for the picnic party. The spider called, "Paper napkins sail down in a row, the picnic hour approaches, you know." Down sailed 25 paper napkins with blue birds upon them. The clock struck 3:30. Would little Miss Muffet never return? The old woman of Leeds took the last cookies out of the oven, and Mother Goose helped pack the 25 dinner pails. Exactly on the stroke of 4, Miss Muffet ran home with Lucy Locket and her lost pocket. She said, "I've been so busy, I'm sorry to say. We'll have the picnic another day." The spider answered, "You've plenty of friends in Mother Goose Town. The cookies are baked, sugared and brown." Simple Simon shouted, "Listen now to Simple Simon. Lucky 'twas I met the pieman." He held up his ripe red raspberry pie, and Jack Horner held up his wonderful green apple pie, and the Queen of Hearts showed her tarts, and taking up the 25 dinner pails, the Mother Goose children went with little Miss Muffet to the woods. I'm really quite sorry to relate the 10 o'clock scholar was very late, and Miss Muffet said, "I'm glad I have a friendly spider," as she smiled on all who sat beside her. Jack and Jill came safely along with a pail of water, while Tom the piper's son played all the way, and the picnic party was merry and gay. End of section 10. Section 11 of Storytime Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Read by Anne O'Donoghue. In Mother Goose Town. In Mother Goose Town, so I've heard say, the animals talk in the strangest way. Mother Hubbard's dog meets Jack Spart's cat, and they sit down for a cosy chat. And the dog and cat from the old coal scuttle have a pleasant talk with Mistress McShuttle. They quiet keep while little Bo Peep sings about her long-lost sheep. One day Little Boy all alone went into the woods and stepped inside the enchanted circle where all the children and animals enjoy speaking the same language. Mother Hubbard's dog said, "It is fun to go walking up and down, sing hey, sing ho, for Mother Goose Town." They took hold of Little Boy all alone's coat. They whisked him away for a year and a day. To his surprise, all the Mother Goose children were making a new cupboard for Mother Hubbard. The 10 o'clock scholar who came in late said, "Take an oblong 5 by 8, fold it then from left to right, open it if you are bright, fold each side into the centre, like a door through which we enter. Stand it up and you will see a cupboard made by you and me. Cut slits in the back, put in paper shelves, from which we all can help ourselves. Cut out china and things to eat. Place on the shelves, 'twill be complete." Sure enough, Mother Hubbard's new cupboard was soon finished, and furnished with cut-out china and cut-out food. Simple Simon said, "Just as soon as I am able, I will make Jack Sprat a table. I'll fold from an oblong or a square, I can find paper everywhere, and then some chairs I'll have to make, even with sometimes a mistake." Simple Simon was so clumsy, everyone had to help him make a table and chairs for Jack Sprat and his wife. They took a shoebox and set the table and chairs in it, and fitted up a real little dining room. Of course they cut out dishes and food for the table. Tommy Tucker sang, "Who will cut out a new coal scuttle for our poor old Mistress McShuttle?" To the surprise of all, they heard the answer. "I will," said her dog and cat. "We are tired sitting on a mat." They cut out the new coal scuttle and made the fireplace and andirons of black paper and pasted it on white. Then Bo Peep cried, "Who will help me now to keep track of all my naughty sheep?" Will you believe it? They looked over hill and dale and could not find track of the lost sheep. So they cut out rows and rows and rows of sheep and pasted bits of wool upon them to make them look like real sheep. At this very minute the telephone rang. Little Boy all alone began to frown. He said I was in Mother Goose Town. Then he remembered what all the Mother Goose children had been doing, and he ran and got paper and scissors and made a very good cupboard. He said, "I have paper and scissors and glue. I can make a very good cupboard, 'tis true." He made everything he had seen in Mother Goose Town, and many other things he thought of, like the house that Jack built, and the old woman who lived in a shoe, and so on. He was no longer alone, for he had his busy fingers and happy thoughts to keep him company. If you're ever alone, be happy too, and smile instead of frown. Get scissors and paper, see what you can do when you visit in Mother Goose Town. End of section 11. Section 12 of Storytime Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Read by Anne O'Donoghue. The Pyramid Story. One day when it was quiet in the kindergarten, the sphere, cube, and cylinder thought they would take a nap. At this very minute, a visitor walked in saying in a wooden voice, "I have travelled far and wide. Is there room for me inside?" The cone said, "We'll welcome you at any rate, if a story you will relate." At that, the visitor laughed so hard she fell over, and everyone went to help her up, for she could not roll like the sphere and cylinder to save her life. The visitor continued, "You're so polite, I'm glad I came. The pyramid is my right name." Then the visitor named Pyramid began to tell a story. Once upon a time, a little boy had been playing with me at my home, and I felt so important that I picked up a wooden voice and said, "Take the best care you can of me. I'm the only pyramid here you see." To my surprise, the ink bottle on the writing desk piped up in a liquid voice, "Ha ha ha, there is another pyramid. I am your brother." Sure enough, the ink bottle looked like me in shape, though he laughed so much he grew black in the face. Then I said, "Well, ink bottle, we must agree. There are two pyramids here, I see." Before I could say another word, a queer-looking fellow on top of the piano sang, "Tick-tock, tick-tock." I asked him, "Are you the brother of the clock, singing, singing, tick-tock?" Then the queer-looking fellow said, "I'm important in song and rhyme. Tick-tock, keep the time." The queer-looking fellow was not a clock at all. He suddenly fell off the piano and began to run after me. He ran after me calling, "Do not try to brag, my dear, for the metronome is near. If your boasting he should hear, 'twould be sad for you, 'tis clear." I could not run, so I called to the little boy, "I'm not as important as I seem. Wake up from your dream." The little boy woke up suddenly. The ink bottle winked his black eyes. The metronome jumped up on the piano. The little boy said, "I thought there were 3 pyramids in the room. I must have been dreaming. But here is the old wooden pyramid beside me anyway." The cone said sleepily, "When you grow a little stronger, perhaps your story will be longer." The pyramid called, "We can learn some things when we try, sphere, cube, and cylinder. Goodbye." I fell asleep just then myself, so I never knew whether that was really the end of the story or not. End of section 12. Section 13 of Storytime Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Read by Anne O'Donoghue. Little Dwarf Merrymaker. If this story needs any explanation, it has to do with the glad vacation. Little boy and little girl stood with their noses flattened against the window pane, looking out when they heard a merry voice call, "Little boy, little girl, it is merry June. Ha ha ho ho, are your hearts in tune?" It was at that very minute the children saw something that looked like a great white bird sailing down, down, down. They heard a whir, whir, whir. They ran out into the yard and down sailed a fairy. He took off his little red cap and made a low bow, saying, "Little boy, little girl, let me explain. I often arrive in my aeroplane." Little boy and little girl laughed very hard at that, and went to look at the tiny aeroplane landed safely on their lawn. Little Dwarf Merrymaker, for it was he who rode in the aeroplane, said, "Little boy, little girl, please tell the reason you both seem sad in vacation season." Then the little boy and little girl explained that school was out and other little boys and girls had gone away to spend their vacation, but they had to stay at home all summer. Their voices were so sad it would have made you weep to hear them tell their troubles. Little Dwarf Merrymaker only laughed a merry ha-ha and replied, "If you are on enjoyment bent, why don't you pitch a little tent?" "Oh and ah!" cried the children. "We never once thought of a tent." They looked about them. Sure enough, there was a sheet flopping about on the clothesline invitingly. In less time than it takes to tell it, the tent was up and they were all inside. Little boy said, "We need a chair or two and table. To find them, now perhaps I'm able." Little girl said, "Dishes now are sometimes found on cupboard shelves or on the ground." Little Dwarf Merrymaker chuckled as he heard the children speak in verse and replied, "You must know a thing or two, any wooden box will do." Soon the children found a soap box and a starch box and a peach box. Then Dwarf Merrymaker cried, "I will call the Cretonne Fairy. She is really clever, very." The Cretonne Fairy came and decorated the boxes in a twinkling of an eye. Little Dwarf Merrymaker cried, "Gather up some broken dishes. We can mend them with our wishes." The children soon had 3 broken cups and saucers and plates, and that funny little fairy sang funny little verses about wishes until they were all as good as new. They all sat down by the soapbox table, and Dwarf Merrymaker cried, "Little table, I do not tease, but bring us chocolate if you please." No sooner said than done. There appeared chocolate smoking hot in a brown chocolate pot on the table. Then Dwarf Merrymaker cried, "Little table, I do not tease, bring us doughnuts if you please." Down sailed a plate of doughnuts so crisp and brown. It had so many doughnuts upon it, the children could not count them all. Dwarf Merrymaker kept singing happy little songs as they had their feast. "Don't forget to make a rhyme in happy glad vacation time." Then suddenly, without any warning, and just in a second of time, Dwarf Merrymaker ran out of the tent and got in his aeroplane and sailed away, 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 until he looked like a great white bird in the sky. Little boy and little girl stood by the window as before. The tent was gone. Now the most wonderful part of the most wonderful part of the story is still to come. Mother sang, "Surprises often happen soon in the merry month of June." Father called, "How many hours have you spent in a real vacation tent?" The children never really knew quite how it happened, but when they had skipped downstairs, jumping 2 steps at a time, to their surprise they saw a little white tent down in the orchard by the apple tree. Inside the tent were boxes covered with pretty cretonne, and on the table were pretty dishes and doughnuts and chocolate smoking hot. Little boy and little girl clapped their hands with delight and cried, "Dwarf Merrymaker comes again in his little aeroplane." Mother and father looked surprised, but overhead was heard a whir, 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 and something that looked like a great white bird sailed by, and an airy, fairy voice called as before, "Little boy, little girl, it is merry June. Ha ha ho ho, are your hearts in tune?" Little boy and little girl had a happy vacation in their tent, and Dwarf Merrymaker spent many happy hours with them. End of section 13. Section 14 of Storytime Tales by Laura Rountree Smith. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Read by Anne O'Donoghue. Anne's Funny Fingers. "It is just as jolly to work as play," said the funny fingers to Anne one day. Little Anne looked down at her fingers, surprised to find they had voices and could talk to her. She got out the old dish and pan and said, "I wash dishes every day in the year. I wish the fairies would help me here." Then the funny fingers began to dance this way and that way, and they shouted, "Each funny finger, it appears, has helped you work for years and years." Then the funny fingers began to wash a blue plate and cup and saucer, and they said, "This is interesting as can be, for the blue china came over the sea." "Dear me," said Anne, "even the dishes seem to have a story to tell today." Soon they were all washed and piled away neatly, and Anne put wood in the old kitchen stove as the funny fingers cried, "Even funny fingers have to learn how to make a fire burn." Then they suggested, "The funny fingers take a broom, and skillfully they sweep our room." Anne sang a little song as she swept the kitchen, and then she said, "I hate to practice, as you know, but to the piano I must go." She hurried to the piano when her little kitchen tasks were done, and thump, thump went her fingers over the keys. The funny fingers shouted as though they were talking to themselves. "She stumbles so and seldom tries, though this is really our exercise." "Your exercise?" cried Anne. "Why, I thought it was my exercise. I will try to be more careful then." She began to count 1, 2, 1, 2, and the music sounded much better. In half an hour the exercise really sounded like a pretty little piece, and the funny fingers suggested, "Always be careful, if you please, when you place us on the piano keys." Anne laughed softly as the funny fingers continued, "The funny fingers like to play a little game, come try croquet." So Anne put on her sunbonnet and went out and played a funny little game of croquet with the red ball and the green ball, and the funny fingers and the red ball won the game. By and by she was tired and curled up in the hammock and fell asleep. Mother came home from town and found the dishes washed and the fire burning merrily, the kitchen floor swept as neat as a pin. The music book was open on the piano, so she knew Anne had practiced her lesson. She even saw the croquet balls outside, and she knew the funny fingers had some fun as well as work. Mother put a package in little Anne's lap. When Anne woke, she cried, "Oh my, what a surprise!" She could hardly wait to open the package, which said in large letters upon it, "For the funny fingers." In the package was a pair of brown kid gloves. The funny fingers said, "They're pretty gloves, she deserves them too, for useful things her fingers do. Happy at work and happy at play, sing the funny fingers every day." End of chapter 14. The end of Storytime Tales by Laura Rountree Smith.